This is part 2 of the Psoas release. Part 1, we focused on the lower half from ASIS to top third of the thigh. We're now going to go from ASIS and pelvic rim up into the kind of borders of the rib cage. Deep to that, we're going to try to be addressing the psoas at the spinal attachments. So the psoas starts from T12 or L1 all the way down to L5, then comes across the pelvis and into the lesser trochanter of the femur. Along with that, it has its partner, the iliacus, on the inside of the pelvis. They form a common tendon, both attaching at the lesser trochanter. So we're going to be using a Courgis ball and a block today. If you don't have a Courgis ball, you might use a blanket, but we do want something really soft. We're going to be addressing this soft part of our body, our abdomen, and trying to get deep within. So we want the body to feel safe, not strained or needing to protect. Where we're going to be going with the ball to start, I call this turning the corner. So we start from the side of the body and we're going to turn the corner. There's a line. If you find your very midline and where your navel is, you go out just a couple of inches from there, you're going to feel that there's this kind of bump. We have our rectus abdominis in the middle. Right at the edge of that bump is where the tendons of our internal and external oblique and our transverse abdominis meet, creating what's called the rectus sheath. So we're going to be kind of at this line, at this dividing line between our obliques and our transverse abdominis and our rectus abdominis as a way to go into our abdomen. Here we're going to be again coming around the corner, so it's as if we're going to be laying down, as if we're moving the pressure back towards our flesh of our back and maybe towards our spine. But if we push too much to midline towards the spine, we're going to be really compressing our small intestines, and for some of us that might be uncomfortable, for some of us it might be really welcomed and nice. So we're trying to get to the psoas. We're not really getting to the iliacus here. We might do a little bit to get down lower, but that's again on the inside of the pelvic rim, inside the kind of ASIS. As you do this, you're also going to be releasing the abdominal wall. So you might get into a little bit of releasing of the rectus abdominis, of all of this fascia along, all of these layers, external, internal, and transverse abdominis, internal and external oblique. And then we're again addressing the intestines, the small intestine and the large intestines on each side. All of this is really good for the body. It's really hydrating. It helps everything slide and glide in this very small and soft area. But if anything feels uncomfortable, if you feel intense pulsing at any point, move off. If anything feels really uncomfortable on your GI system, if you've just eaten, you may want to wait a little bit. So once again, I start with this one on my bottom side. I think of that idea of coming around the corner. So I have it on my bottom side. I come around the corner until I find that line. I'm familiar with where that line is. It might take some time for you to become familiar. The side that I'm not releasing, that leg is out, propping me. And I'm gonna now travel vertically up and down, kind of along that line. If you're on the right side, you are also working your ascending colon. If you're on the left side, you're also working and massaging your descending colon. Important to have good motility in here. Important to notice how the abdominal wall feels here. And then again, the pressure based on how our body is being directed towards the back of our abdominal wall. So if it feels comfortable, you can come down to your hands. Try to relax the leg on the side that you're working or releasing, and try to breathe. And when you breathe here, you have a ball in the way, so all of the breath can't go into the abdomen. Some of the breath can go into the back or higher into the ribs. When you exhale, really try to soften the abdomen. Make it a nice soft sigh without too much contraction. And then if you can, there's this brief pause between exhale and inhale. See if you can soften the abdomen a little bit more there. Full inhale, soft exhale. Brief pause, softening a little bit more. The more we soften, the deeper the ball goes, so notice how that feels. If it's ever too much, you come up to your forearms, and you can also kind of push through your knees to lighten the pressure. So I can really let my body sag, or I can lift up. As much or as little as you want to tolerate today. And then we're going to see how it feels here to find a place maybe that's a little bit more tender, or maybe a place that's less tender, right? You decide based on what you need. To pause, bend the knee, and we're going to try to do a little bit of windshield wiper. Bringing the foot in and out, rotating the femur, which the psoas and the iliacus control. They primarily do external rotation, but there's a lengthening that's going to need to happen as the leg internally rotates, right? So no matter which direction we're rolling, we're doing something to create slide and glide of the psoas. You might feel some of that. Again, this is called pin and stretch. We have the ball on a muscle group that we are pinning, and then we are stretching or moving the tissue below it to try to encourage some of this slide and glide. And take a moment to take just one more breath. You can do this in multiple spots. You can move lower, move higher. For the sake of time, we're just going to go to the other side. Decide for yourself if you need to pause the video. So again, I start with the ball under my side. I turn the corner. I find that line between rectus abdominis and the attachments into the anterior rectus sheath. And then I settle. And then maybe there's this vertical movement up and down. You can use your foot to help do this movement. You can use your opposite leg that's out to the side. You can use your forearms. Right? So modify and move as you need. Sometimes we squirm, we wriggle, we wiggle. There's no direct right thing here, so explore a little bit. Sometimes a little side to side feels better. Whew. There might be some places that creep up on you. I just found a spot that just snuck up on me. And then breathe. On this side, I tend not to want to go all the way down onto my hands. It's just a little too intense for me, so I'm staying on forearms. Inhale through the nose, exhale out the mouth with a nice gentle sigh, softening. If you need to support the head, you can do that with stacked fists, or you can always use a block. Maybe there's that pause between exhale and inhale where you can soften just a little bit more. Take a brief vacation. Letting the body just be empty of air for a moment. And then when it feels right for you, if it feels okay for you, bend the knee and start to rotate out and in. The range, again, is determined by how much your leg can do the movement. We're not looking to rock the whole body here. In pin and stretch, we want one part to remain fixed and one part to move. So here, our lumbar spine and our pelvis remain fixed, and it's just our femur, just our thigh, that's rolling and rotating. Take another breath or two. Again, if you want to do some more spots or need more time on one side, take time to pause the video. For most all of us, we have one psoas that's tighter or more restricted or more sensitive than the other. From here, the ball can go off to the side, and you're now going to use your block, just have it at the side. Lay onto your back. Take a moment to just settle here. Notice how your bones, how your skeleton is settling. And so again, this psoas, which is our tenderloin muscle, is very, very long, going again from T12 or L1 through all lumbar spine, all the way to L5, crossing the pelvis, coming to lesser trochanter. It's a very long area. So we have to check in with how is the rib cage settling? How is the lumbar spine feeling? It should be relatively suspended. There's space under the low back. And then the pelvis settling, and the thighs resting. I'm just checking in. What does that alignment feel like after doing that release? Generally, how does your abdomen, how does your gut feel? How does your abdominal wall or your abdominal muscles feel? So after you've scanned through your body, after you've let yourself settle, take a moment to come onto the block. And I tend to prefer this low and wide. You can also do this low and long, or at its medium setting and wide, right? You can play around with that as you bring yourself onto the block. We're going to be doing some movement, so when the block goes to its medium setting, it's a little bit more tippy, it's a little bit more wobbly. So this isn't necessarily about the height that you can get, though that will change how this feels. You can always use something different. You can use a bolster or a blanket if this doesn't feel comfortable for you. If you have a history of SI joint hypermobility or instability or discomfort, this may or may not feel right for you. So listen to what you need to modify, just something underneath the pelvis to give it a little bit of height. And then as you go here, you're going to hug your knee into your chest and try to allow the front of the hip to soften. If there's some tenseness or tightening, let the knee go out wide, and you can hug behind the thigh or on top of the shin, whatever works for you. Other leg goes straight and long, goes bent, but stays long. And from here, give a gentle push into the ground through that leg that's down, hugging the other leg in. So we're creating this rounding of the low back while we go into this split-like action. Soften the shoulders, soften the neck, and take some easy breaths here. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Each time you exhale at the mouth, try to let the rib cage drop. Again, the theme here is softening, letting go. And then see how it feels to maintain this shape of your lumbar spine and the knee hugged in, but gently bring the leg out, and it goes longer. It doesn't have to go all the way straight. If that creates an arch in the back, you've gone a little too far. Again, we want to keep one part of our body stable while the other part moves. So here, pelvis, low back, and rib cage again remain still, leg lengthens. And now try to breathe here, still softening on the exhale, but maybe a little bit of activation of, again, pushing the heel into the ground without arching the back. So there's still a theme of softness, but we're activating now with length. Take your time after the next breath to bring that leg long back in. You can bring both legs up or both legs down to switch. And we'll switch sides, hugging knee in, letting it go out to the side if that feels better on the hip, softening the front of the hip. In order to fold the hip, we have to let go. We also have to let our femur kind of glide back and down. From here, we soften the shoulders. We give a gentle, really gentle push of the leg that's down into the ground to, again, encourage more of that rounding, that lengthening of low back. And we breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth, nice and soft. From here, see how it feels to lengthen the leg. If there was differences when you were rolling from side to side, it might be different with how long the leg can go. Find where you can go comfortably. And again, breathe there with a little bit more effort as you exhale to push the leg into the ground, as long as you can do that with a long low back. So again, we're getting hip extension, not lumbar extension. Although there's effort, there's ease, finding that balance. From here, we'll go to, again, both legs coming in, either hugged or down, it doesn't matter which. Take a moment to adjust your block if you need to. We're going to go into a little bit of activation here. So we're going to go back around to what was your first side. Leg that's down is bent to start. Find where it feels good to hug in and how it feels good to hug in. And from here, see how it feels for you to, again, give that activation of pushing down. Can you still do that with a long, low back? Then see how it feels to straighten the leg. So kind of back to where we were, taking our time to get there. And then what you're going to try is now, instead of hugging your knee in, can you release your hand and hold it? So this leg, this bent leg, should not move. It stays hugged in. There's a little activation. Can you activate that so much that now the straight leg, the long leg, lifts? And I've only done that from tucking my pelvis. I've engaged my core a little bit more. Then can you maintain and hold that and meet the resistance, hand to knee to hand? Neither is winning, but there's activity pushing down through the hands, pulling up through the knee, which is through your psoas. So it's not just core, but psoas to give this drawing in. Ideally, your knee is above your hip, which is really when that psoas works, above 90 degrees. You're breathing. Maybe there's a little bit of external rotation. So again, that knee out to the side, the foot comes in just a little bit, and breathe. Can you still do this without too much tension, effort, and ease? Can you do this without the low back getting achy but long? There's a sense of length. One more breath and release. Leg comes back in. You can hug both in and release, or both down and release. If as you go you're getting some low back tension, just retrograde. Let the long leg come down, do a little less effort. We want to avoid, what we're looking to avoid is low back compression here. So switching sides, hug knee in. Opposite leg is bent to start. We get our bearings, we get settled. Once we feel good here, and we kind of know where our body is, straighten the leg without losing that length of the low back. From there, if you can, tuck the pelvis a little bit more low abs, zipping pubic bone to navel, so that the leg floats up, right? It doesn't just lift up, but it floats up. And we maintain that. We hold this without holding the arms now. So now we're giving a little bit of activation on the leg that's up as well. If at any point there's tension or compression in the low back, retrograde, use hands, bring the leg back down. You'll still get release. You'll get probably even more. And then if you can, let the resistance meet. Hands down, knee up. A little bit of external rotation. Knee out to the armpit. Keep driving up, rounding the back. We're not looking to overly round the back, but we're especially not looking to arch the back. Breathe easy. The breath has to modify again because we have a strong core. And then release out. Both legs in, and just do a little gentle rock from side to side. If it doesn't feel good for knees to be up, you can go feet down and do the same thing. Gentle rock. Take your time to kind of gather yourself, activate as you need to lift off the block, slide off the block and come back down. And from here, reassessing how you feel laying down. Notice how your breath is. Notice how this all feels. We didn't really do an assessment at the beginning to check in, but maybe there's something that feels different about how your body is resting. As you get up to stand, there might be something that feels different about that. So just check in, take a moment. Rest here for as long as you need, or do more of anything that we've done.